From Chicago, it's the Andy Anderson Show.
Hello. My guest is Kevin Trudeau, founder of the American Memory Institute and author of Mega Memory. Kevin, we're going to be talking about how to release your photographic memory. And I wonder if you would tell us exactly what is the American Memory Institute and Mega Memory.
Well, as you know, Andy, what we are is the largest memory training school in the world. And what we do is we teach people all around the world how to release the instant recall memory that everyone has right now, or photographic memory. Now, I call it a mega memory, so that people can do pretty amazing things, such as go into a room and meet 30 or 40 people and remember everyone's name. Or students can study for exams and get straight A's on the test. Or you can remember foreign languages, or a playing card, scripture out of the Bible, things to do, appointments, telephone numbers. Anything at all like that that helps people be more effective every single day in their lives. It even stops some of the absent-minded things, like, do you ever have this happen to you? You ever walk into a room in your house and say, why did I come in here?
I identify with that.
Or you go to the store to buy milk, you come back with 10 things, you don't have milk, or you can't remember where you parked your car, or where are the keys, all those little type of problems that people have today. And that's what we do when I develop the mega memory techniques. We teach people how to develop instant recall.
But Kevin, don't normally people have good memories and other people have bad memories?
That's one of the most common misconceptions, Andy. Some people think, well, I was just born with a bad memory. And other people just were lucky they were born with a good memory. And that's just really not the case. You see, what we discovered at the Institute is there's no such thing as a good or a bad memory. There's just a trained or an untrained memory. You see, Andy, you virtually remember everything that you see, hear, and think about. If it comes in through the senses, it is remembered. But the problem is recalling that information. And let me give you a good example. And the people home listening, think about this. How many times has it happened to you where you walk into a bank or a grocery store and you see someone that you know? I mean, for like 5 years you know them. And you go, oh, hi! And as soon as you say hi, the name just goes completely blank in your mind. It's happened to you, right? Doesn't it aggravate you the whole day? It's like, I know this guy. What's his name? Doesn't come back to you. 3 days later, at 2 o'clock in the morning, from nowhere, the name just pops into your mind. Oh, it was Joe Smith. Now, the question is, did you ever really forget in the first place? No. The information was, in fact, in your memory. The problem was recalling it when you needed it. And that's what the Mega Memory course is all about. We help people develop instant recall, so when they see something, when they hear it, or when they think about it, it can be recalled, whether it be names and faces, facts and information, phone numbers, directions, scripture out of the Bible, remembering playing cards, anything at all like that, so it can help people in their business careers, in their social careers, and also for students, obviously, in school.
That's fascinating, but how does it work, Kevin?
Well, let me just tell you a little bit how the memory accesses data, give you an idea. If you can imagine a filing cabinet, and in that filing cabinet there's 1,000 files, all alphabetized. And I say, hey, Andy, can you find me the Jones file? Boom, within seconds you can have that information you need at your fingertips. Even though there's a lot of information there, it's all filed away in an order. What would happen, though, if we took the same files and I emptied them on the floor in this room and I mixed them all up? I said, hey, could you find me the Jones file? You'd say, yeah, can you call me next Tuesday? I got to go through this big mess. Your mind is exactly the same way. You meet people every day in your business and get their names. You think of things to do. Students study for exams. You get phone numbers. And all you're really doing is throwing information in the Grand Canyon of your mind. It's like taking a file folder and throwing it into a room arbitrarily. Then when you try to go back to recall it, you think, what was that guy's name? What was that phone number? What did I have to do today? Or a student says, what was the information for the test? You say, oh, I forgot. You didn't forget. The information is in your memory. The problem is recalling it. So we just work on developing mental file folders, if you will, in the mind. So when you see something, when you hear it, or even if you think about it, it automatically goes into a mental place. And then you can instantly access the information and remember names, faces, things to do, appointments, etc.
But isn't all memory just word association?
Well, up until this point, Andy, all memory training used basic word association as the technique to help people remember. And if anyone at home watching has ever read a book on memory or learned anything about memory, and I'm sure that some of the people have, they were probably exposed to basic word association. And they probably found out what I did. It doesn't work. Basic word association is very limiting, it's very cumbersome. And most importantly, it's very difficult to apply in real life. It's just ineffective in real-life situations that business professionals and students face every single day. So the mega memory techniques are very unique, where they have a series of mental exercises that virtually stimulate two parts of the brain. The big words are dendrites and neurotransmitters. And after just a couple of short hours, by exercising that part of the brain, we actually release the instant recall memory that people have right now. Your eye becomes like a wide-angle camera, virtually picking up and recording everything it sees, whether you're focused on it or not. Your ear becomes like a very powerful tape recorder, virtually recording everything it hears, whether you're focused on it or not. So without consciously applying a technique, you have remember and you can access the data. Let me give you a good story. I was on a nationwide television talk show most people were familiar with and they've seen me on. And one of the demonstrations I did, Andy, was I met the audience before the program. There was over 150 people. And I remembered everyone's name, first and last name. And when I came off the air, everybody was impressed. Ed grabbed me and said, well, sure, Kevin, you know, you could do that. You're the founder of the Institute, but no one else could. I says, no, Ed, anyone can do this, and I'll prove it to you. Out of tonight's audience, you give me a student, age 10, 11, or 12. Give me a business professional, someone in their 30s or 40s, and get someone in their 60s. I'll have them go through the Mega Memory Home Study course this week on their own. Next week, invite the four of us back on the show, and I'll have my brain new graduates do that exact same demonstration. Well, heck, it was a great way to get back on the program, right? Which worked. But it was so exciting the next week to see a 67-year-old woman, by memory, rattle off over 50 people's first and last names that she met just about an hour before the program. Man, they were all blown away. They said, wow, how did you remember those people's names? And her answer was, I don't know. She said, I just remembered. And we all had a good chuckle. She goes, I can't wait for my bridge club. But that was the point. I said, she turned to me, she goes, what did you do to my memory? And I said, well, we just exercised the instant recall ability you had and released it, and now you got it forever. And that's the biggest difference between mega memory and any other type of memory training technique. It releases that ability as opposed to trying to teach you a technique you have to consciously apply.
Kevin, would you be willing to give us a demonstration?
Absolutely. Yeah,
I have 15 words, objects, telephone numbers that I have written down here.
Okay.
And you haven't seen.
Right.
And I would like to rattle those off, and I want you to rattle them right back to me.
Okay, yeah, we do this demonstration a lot. And if you go home listening, try and test your own memory, too, see how well you do.
Let's do it. Number one.
Okay.
Coffee.
Got it. Number one's coffee.
You got it already?
All right, next.
Okay.
Well, before we go on, it's important that people realize when you do have a trained memory, you can virtually remember faster than you can write things down. And that's very, very important, especially for students. If you're in lecture classes trying to remember what's being said, you can remember faster than you can write. So let's go.
Okay. Number two, tapes.
Got it. Number two is tapes.
Tapes. Okay. Number three is Melvin Cooper.
Okay, name Melvin Cooper. Got it.
Okay. You sure?
Got it.
Number four, rattlesnake.
Okay, got it.
Okay, number five, telephone number 472-0601.
Got it. 4720601. Okay. Next.
Okay, number six, book.
Got it.
Number seven, alligator.
Got it.
Am I going too slow?
No, good.
Number eight, microphone.
Got it.
Number nine, money.
Got it.
Number 10, Albuquerque.
Got it.
Number 11, telephone.
Got it.
Number 12, meeting.
Got it.
Number 13, playing cards.
Playing cards. Got it.
14 is water.
Got it.
And 15, man's suit.
Man's suit. Okay, now let me see how we do this at kind of blistering speed, and let's see how well I can recall these by memory. I think they go something like this. First we have coffee, tapes. Number three, of course, is the name Melvin Cooper. Then we have rattlesnake. Then the number 4720601 was number five. Number six was book. Number seven was alligator. Eight, of course, was microphone. Nine was money. 10 was Albuquerque. 11 was telephone. 12 was meeting. 13 was playing cards. 14 was water. 15 was man suit. Backwards we go. Man suit, water. Then we have playing cards, meeting, telephone, Albuquerque, money, microphone, alligator, book, 4720601, rattlesnake, Melvin Cooper, tapes, and of course the first one was coffee, and that's forwards and backwards by memory.
That's phenomenal. That's absolutely phenomenal.
Now, it's funny, when people see me do that demonstration, a lot of people can be impressed with that. And I have to tell people, listen, don't be impressed with that demonstration, because even though I think it is an impressive demonstration of what can be done with a trained memory, it's something that everyone can do right now, because it's an ability that everyone has. It just needed to have exercised and released. And not just with 15 things, Andy, with 50, 100, 1,000. And not just words, with technical information. It could be equations for calculus, facts and information, abstract information, anything at all. Things like from fun like playing cards, to have that access. And I have to tell people, think about the power if you could do what I just did. Again, not with just 15, with thousands. What type of advantage that would give people every single day in their business? Or what type of advantage it would give students in school? And I always have to make the statement to parents. Not only think of the advantage a student would have being able to do what I just did, to have that memory power, but think of the disadvantage students have right now not being able to do it.
This really is helpful in business.
In business, it's very helpful. You know, there was a book written by Dale Carnegie called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's the #2 bestseller of all time, second only to the Bible. And in that book, Carnegie discovered that a person's name is actually the sweetest sound in the language to each person, because everyone's favorite subject is themselves. That was very interesting, because remembering names is probably one of the main reasons people come and go through the mega memory system. Let me just give you an example. Let me ask you the question. And the people home listening, ask this to yourself. How many times have you walked up to someone, shaken their hand, that person gives you their name, and as soon as the handshake breaks, the name is forgotten?
I do it all the
It
time.
happens all the time. In 2 minutes after you've been introduced to the person, you can't even make a proper introduction. You can't even introduce your spouse. You have to call the person buddy or friend or pal. It's very embarrassing. But think about being able to go into a room, meet 30 or 40 people, and remember every single person's name. That's the ability we're talking about. So remembering names is very important in business. Let me give you a quick story. When I was in New York City, I was doing a radio talk show. It was a call-in show. And the fellow called up and says, "Hey, Kevin, I'm so happy to talk to you live. I saw you on TV about 8 months ago. I got your mega memory course, and it was the best investment ever made for my career." I said, "Well, why is that?" He said, "Well, you see, I was applying for a job on Wall Street, a job I really wanted." He said, "The problem was 500 other people were also applying for the same job." He said, "So in order to set myself apart, what I did was I committed to memory every single person's name in the firm. There were over 50 people that I met over a 5-day interview process." And he goes, "The great thing is every time I go back in the next day and I saw the people that I met the day before, I'd call them by name. I'd say, 'Hey, John Sinclardi, good to see you. Franklin Militello, good to see you. Grace Weiner, nice to see you.' They were blown away." He said, "But the second thing I did was I committed to memory all 1,500 of the New York Stock Exchange companies and stock symbols. And I told him I had this great memory, and I showed them. He goes, 'Man, I was like a freak show.' They say, 'Hey, Charlie, you got to come in here and check this guy out.'" He goes, "Obviously, I was the only guy they talked about. I got the job. I got 3 promotions since then." He says, "And now I can go into meetings without paper, without notes. I can make presentations without notes. I remember the memos. I remember all the facts and information, the telephone numbers." He goes, "They call me the walking computer. And the best thing," he says, "Andy, because I have this great memory, everyone thinks I'm smart." And he was kidding me, and he goes, "And I don't know if it's true."
Okay, from our list of 15, what was number 7?
Number 7, of course, was alligator.
Alligator. Okay, if there are people out there watching right now who want more information about this course, how do they get it?
Sure, Andy. If people do want information on the Mega Memory Home Study course, they can, of course, call the Institute directly at 1-800-242-2976. It's 1-800-242-2976. And as a courtesy to your viewers, if they do call today, we will give them 50% off the regular price of our program.
Sounds like a great deal. Kevin, how do memory and learning go together?
Well, memory and learning go hand in hand. If you say you've learned something, you must be able to recall it. So obviously memory and the educational process there is a perfect marriage. And not, you know, kids in school, in grade school, and high school level, and also in the college level, and even grad school, and any person learning anything new, even a new skill, not just in education and academics, but any learning anything, memory is a vital role. If you say you've learned it, you must be able to remember it. So I just got a letter recently from a teacher that took an entire 7th grade class at the beginning of last school year. They put them through the mega memory system at the beginning of the school year. Just took a couple days. At the end of the school year, they had a big problem on their hands. 8 months ahead of their school curriculum. Lowest grade point average, A-. They tested the vocabulary levels of these 7th graders, Andy. They were found to be that of sophomores in college because they could remember all the words and definitions. I can't wait till these kids take their SATs. You know, it's going to be a major advantage.
Sure.
They were 3 years ahead in Spanish because they could remember all the conjugations, the words, and so forth. Foreign languages are virtually all memory. But more importantly than anything, the absentee rate, they told me, was virtually 0 because the children love to go to school. I can imagine them in school. It's like, "Teacher, don't forget that test. I studied for 5 minutes last night." Now, that has to increase the self-esteem, the self-image, the self-confidence in all the students. You see, memory not only is going to increase academics, grades. I mean, you can get straight A's if you have a powerful memory. But more important than I think is the self-confidence goes up. And that's going to positively impact children in all areas of their life.
Let's go back to our list and turn it around a little bit. What number was money?
Money, of course, was 9.
That's absolutely correct.
Well, it's funny, you know, you can, to have that access, and again, not just, you know, now, but maybe hours later or months later, that's important. I mean, to be able to meet somebody in a cocktail party tonight if you're in business, and be able to, 3 months later, see him again and say, "Hey, you know, Sidney Weiner, good to see you." And you'll have instant recall.
What was number 2?
Number 2, of course, was tapes.
How did you get into this memory business?
Well, it's funny because people see me do that demonstration, or some of the other demonstrations on the other shows I've been on. They assume I've had a great memory my whole life, and that just really wasn't the case, Andy. I had a poor memory. I was told in high school I had a learning disability. I virtually flunked out of high school. I had a memory block. I never went to college. And it was because of my poor memory that I went and tried to figure out a way to improve it. And I read every book on memory. And again, like most people, they were just exposing me to basic word association, and people found out what I did. It doesn't work. Basic association does not work. In real life, you really can't apply it. And anyone who's ever got anything to teach is that they know that. So it didn't work for me. I then met a fella who, back in 1975, took a group of 35 blind children at the Muskogee, Oklahoma School for the Blind. D.R. Carter was the superintendent back then, and began working with these kids. Now, before he worked with them, the Muskogee School Board came in and tested the kids on their recall ability. That way they could measure any improvement. And the children were found to have only 15% ability to recall information, which is very low. So the board gave us 5 days to work with these kids, and we trained them on some of the memory technology. A week later, 5 days later, the board came in and tested them a second time. But this time, instead of a 15% recall, these same blind children now showed an over 90% recall ability. It dramatically improved. Well, needless to say, the board and this fellow was pretty impressed with the results, but they weren't through. They tested the kids 6 and 12 months later to see if it stuck, and a year later, most of the kids actually improved to 95 and 98% recall, so it stuck. Same year, they gave them a group of retarded kids, IQs of 50 and 60, and the results were almost identical. Low memory in the beginning, dramatic improvement in the 90s just a week later, and a year later in testing, almost 100% recall ability with slow retarded kids. We knew, and I knew at that point, if blind and retarded kids had this ability that can be released, I certainly could. Over the next year, I actually refined and invented, if you will, the whole mega memory system that we have today that people go through, and actually improved my own memory. And now in the last couple of years, over 2 million people, Andy, in the U.S. alone have gone through the mega memory techniques to access and use their own recall ability. It's the #1 self-improvement series in history today because the results are so profound.
But isn't this hard to learn? Doesn't it require a lot of practice?
Well, again, we keep going back to the basic word association techniques, if anyone's familiar with, and they find that it does take and require a lot of practice to keep it up. The mega memory techniques are very unique, Andy, because it's kind of like learning how to swim, or learning how to ride a bicycle, or learning how to drive a 4-speed transmission. Once you learn how, the ability has now been released. You never forget. I mean, if you learn how to swim as a child, and you hadn't swum in, let's say, 10 years, and I throw you in the deep end, you're not going to drown. You're going to swim like a fish, because it's an ability that's been released. Same thing with memory. I mean, you know how to tie your shoes. You don't forget that. You automatically know. You remember your own name. You can't forget your own name, because it's part of the knowledge bank. So what we're talking about with releasing it, and it makes mega memory unique, is that it actually is releasing an ability you have as opposed to trying to teach you a skill you have to continue to learn and practice and so forth. So once it's released, you got it forever.
I guess it's similar to bicycle riding and roller skating when you were a kid.
Exactly. And again, tying your shoe or driving that 4-speed manual, you can't forget that once you learn it, it's there. Now, learning it, for the first couple days, getting on the bike was a little bit hairy, but then once you got it, it's there.
How would it help in scripture reading? A lot of people read the Bible. Very difficult book to read for some.
Yeah, there are 5,000 promises in Scripture. And for people who are very into religion and into their faith, we have a lot of them called, and we work with a lot of Christian organizations as an example. They want to be able to remember things verbatim, primarily Scripture out of the Bible. And having a powerful memory gives that ability. And they tell me that when you have access at your mental fingertips to things verbatim, it helps them in their life. We also work with actors who need to remember lines verbatim. I had a letter from a fellow who called up and said, hey, I get now virtually every single job I go on. He's an actor in Los Angeles does commercials. He says, because what I do was when I go into the set, they give me the script, and while everyone else has to read teleprompters or cue cards, I take 10 minutes and commit it to memory. Now, I can go and use no notes whatsoever. I can emphasize my facial expressions and voice inflection and so forth. He goes, they're impressed. And, of course, I also remember everyone's name, which makes them like me, too.
So even more impressive.
That's right.
Well, maybe you ought to give the telephone number. Can you remember the telephone number?
The people can. The simple number to remember. If people do want information on the Mega Memory Home Study course, they can call the Institute directly.
Again, at 1-800-242-2976. It's 1-800-242-2976. And again, if they do call today as a courtesy to the viewers, we will give them a 50% discount off the regular price of the Mega Memory Home Study course.
Okay, from our test of 15, what was number 3?
Number 3, of course, was the name Melvin Cooper.
Got it. But what about age? I mean, everyone ages, and there's a normal losing of your memory, your capacity to remember.
As we get older, yeah, when, 2020 had the feature on memory, and the whole show was on age-related memory loss. As we get older, Andy, there are some physiological things that can occur in the body which adversely affect memory, including arteriosclerosis. Lecithin in the brain can diminish. Certain poisons in our water supply affect the brain cell, and even viral infections like Epstein-Barr virus, which is associated with chronic fatigue syndrome, candidiasis, food allergies, hypoglycemia. There's a whole host of things that can affect people physiologically as they get older. Now, the mega memory system also is the only system that talks about at length the connection between the body and the mind in terms of memory. So we talk a lot about nutrition, foods to avoid, foods you should take to improve memory, certain nutrients that can affect dramatically your ability to concentrate and your mental alertness level and memory recall. But as people get older, let me tell you a story. I was invited to speak at a nursing home. Now, I thought I was going to be teaching the staff members, but they had me teach the actual residents. These people in their 80s, 90s, and in some cases hundreds, physically debilitated. They were just watching television all day long, mentally almost dead. And they said, try to help these people improve their memory. Well, I thought, geez, maybe it's a lost cause. Well, I shut the television off, number one, and began to working with these people. I came back a week later, and I thought I was in a completely different room. I mean, before I thought I was speaking to a mannequin convention. I mean, just everyone was just staring at me. There was no life at all. Now I walked in after we released the memory power that they already naturally had, and they were playing cards. They were reading poetry. I had people playing charades from their wheelchairs because they couldn't move around, playing charades. It was hysterical. They were having a great time. They were playing chess and checkers and board games. People were telling stories and just laughing and having a nice time. And it wasn't a TV on. I got more hugs and more tears from these folks than I ever in my life. It was probably the most moving experience for me because they told me I awakened their mental capacity again because now that they can think. We do that in school. We teach kids what to think but not how to think, what to know but not how to know it, and it can be hurtful.
What about people with physical injuries, a head injury? Can that be helpful to them?
The only people that the mega memory techniques can't help, we found, is Alzheimer's patients because the brain cells are actually dying. Now, again, over 2 million people have gone through these techniques, and the results are really amazing and unbelievable. That's one of the reasons why so many people go through it, because the results are quantifiable. You can see it. I had a fellow I was doing a class in New Jersey, and this fellow came into the room. He was impeccably dressed, obviously a pretty wealthy fellow, but his face was, something's wrong. He was partially paralyzed. He had a stroke on the right-hand side of his body, mostly in his face. Adversely affected his memory. He lost his job because he flew on the Concorde to Paris, forgot his notes, forgot why he went, lost his job. And he said, hey, look, for 3 years, I've had this memory problem. Can you help me? I said, I don't know. Take the course home with you, go through it at your leisure, and you let me know the results. Call me a few months later. He says, well, my memory is not only what it was before, it's better than ever. He said, I can go into meetings now without paper, without notes, remember everything that's discussed. I can read the Wall Street Journal, remember most of the information that I want to recall. I go into a room and meet 30 or 40 people, and he says, I remember all their names. He goes, this has changed my life because I thought that I had really no future, and I was just going to be living this miserable existence. So we've seen the results with stroke victims and even people who've had head injury victims, people who've had injury to their brain due to drug abuse and so forth, because the memory is there. All we're doing is releasing it.
Number 14.
Number 14, of course, was water.
Got it. Talking about learning disorders, what about attention deficit disorder? Would that help a person with that kind of
attention deficit disorder right now is a buzzword, and I'm very emotional about this problem because I have friends that have children who've been diagnosed with this, and they put them on different drugs and so forth. Now, we have found of the kids, by the way, there are millions of children, Andy, today that have been labeled with attention deficit disorder or attention deficit syndrome, terms are synonymous. I believe that since it didn't exist 20 years ago, there's no such thing as ADD, that there's something had to be physically amiss here. We did a research report, and I read one that 5,000 ADD kids were tested, 100% of them to be found to be hypoglycemic. They simply just taken too much sugar. 92% were found to be allergic to the food additives, primarily casein in the milk, which is a milk protein, some of the red dyes, MSG, monosodium glutamate, and so forth. So there are some physiological problems. A lot of them had Epstein-Barr virus and candidiasis. And when we changed their diet, all of a sudden, in a matter of 2 days, there's no more ADD. So we see a big correlation between, again, the physiology, the food we take in, the water things, and the way the brain functions. I had a fellow call me up. He said he had this problem, ADD, he was flunking calculus. He called me up. I was doing the show in Cleveland. He says, Kevin, I'm getting a straight F in calculus because I can't remember the equations. They told me I have attention deficit, so I can't concentrate. He said, but I just got your course, and I'm so excited because in lesson 7, I teach them how to commit an equation to memory, a calculus equation to memory in 30 seconds. He goes, man, I have a test tomorrow. If I study tonight and remember these equations, I have 20 of them, I'll get an A. I said, great, call me at my home tomorrow and let me know how you did. Called me the next day. He said, well, I got good news and bad news. He goes, the good news is I got a 100% on my calculus equation exam. I go, man, that's terrific. He goes, well, I go, what's the bad news? He goes, the bad news is the teacher won't accept the test. You figure they must have cheated to get this A. I said, oh, no, what are you going to have to do now? He said, I got to take it Friday in the principal's office. Now, here's the best part, Andy. I said, how are you going to do Friday? He says, Kevin, I can't forget these equations even if I tried. You see, when you learn information properly the first time and use the powerful memory that you have, the information is there. You can't forget it even if you wanted to. And that's the power that I have to explain to people that they have at their fingertips if they can just release it. It just takes a couple hours. Again, the mega memory technology is very easy. Anyone 10 and above can go through it, and the results are really spectacular in all areas.
From our list of 15, rattlesnake was which number?
Rattlesnake, of course, was 4.
I really would like to trip you up here today, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. Remembering from the past as a child, can you remember things later on in years after taking your memory course?
Well, up into the, it was funny. I did a show years ago, and a woman called up and said, hey, I went on vacation. We hid our jewelry box where no one would ever find it. And she said, and no one has ever found it yet, including me. Can you help? And I said, I don't think so. Since that time, part of the mega memory system now that we have available is a little tape called How to Remember Things in Your Past. And it actually, in 8 minutes, teaches people how to go back and just access information. It's very effective if you lost the ring, or if you have a person's name that you met maybe in the first grade that was a friend, you can't think of their name or something. I get more letters. I was showing you one today in the car. I have more letters from people that have got that program and within 8 minutes access something from maybe 10, 15 years ago. And it's really caused a lot of happiness and excitement because they have information that they thought they forgot forever, but it really is in the memory. Again, you remember everything. It just needs to be recalled.
Give us your phone number one more time.
Sure, Andy. Again, if people do want information on the Mega Memory Home Study course, they can call the Institute directly at 1-800-242-2976. And I think the number's probably on the screen there. It's 1-800-242-2976. And again, if they do call today, we will give them 50% off the regular price of our program.
Kevin Trudeau, I want to thank you for being with us today. Kevin is founder of the American Memory Institute and author of Mega Memory. Thanks for being with us, Kevin.
It's been a pleasure, Andy. Thank you.